Hey there, it's Dr. Schulman. Welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Schulman. Today we're going to talk about silicone versus saline breast implants. I know you all have lots of questions about the differences between that. So let's really get down and dirty and talk about how one is different than the other. This is a saline implant. So this is salt water. This is a silicone implant or a gel. So to understand the differences, let's kind of work from the outside in. The first thing to talk about is the outside or the shell of the implant. So this is a saline or saltwater filled implant, but the shell is actually a silicone shell. So it's a thin rubber shell. It's the exact same shell that's on this silicone filled implant. So if I show you what the shell looks like with nothing in it, this is it. So when we're talking about the differences between a saline and a silicone implant, the outer shell or the outer layer is exactly the same. The main difference is what we put on the inside of it. So obviously, a saline implant is filled with saline or salt water. The silicone is filled with a silicone gel. The saline implant actually comes empty. So it looks just like this when I take it out of the box. And the way we fill it up is there's a little attachment here, and we take this little tube and we click that in, and then we're able to use a syringe and fill it up and just keep pumping it up with salt water until it gets to the volume we want. So one of the advantages of a saline implant is we can adjust the volume. So I can take this implant that's 300 cc's and I can fill it up to 300 cc's, or I can put a little bit more in it and make it 330 cc's or 340 cc's. So that gives us the ability to kind of tinker with the volume. That's a great option for people that have a little bit of a difference between their right breast and their left breast. It also helps us in the operating room because I can fill up the implants, take a step back, look at the patient and say, you know what, let's put a little bit more in, let's make her a little bit bigger because I think that'll look better. With a silicone implant, these come pre-filled, so you don't have that option. They do come in a million different sizes, it's just we have to choose those sizes, and once it's in, we can't adjust the volume. That has something to do with how we put the implant in. So obviously, you know, I showed you that this implant comes empty. So I can take a saline implant and insert it through a really small incision, really just, you know, about 2.5 centimeters. So really just this big. And the reason I'm able to do that is because, like I showed you, I'm just gonna get the air out of this, it's completely empty. So what we do is we actually roll this up and it gets put in the incision just like this. So it just goes right in there. So you can imagine that you only need a really small incision to get this in. And then once it's inside, this tube comes out and then we start pumping it up with our syringe. The silicone implant, because it comes pre-filled, it takes a little bit larger of an incision to get this in because we have to squeeze this whole implant in through that incision with it already filled. Now you've seen me do the surgeries with something called a Keller funnel, which is the device that allows me to squeeze this implant in through a small incision, but it does have to be a little bit longer for an implant like this. This is a 440 cc silicone filled implant. I probably need to make an incision that's about 4 centimeters, maybe 4.5 centimeters. So, you know, really twice as big as you need for a saline implant. The other thing we'll talk about is the appearance, and I think this is the main difference between the two implants. This is the saline or saltwater filled implant, and take a look at how it moves. It really does look and feel like a water balloon, and that's because it really is just a high-tech water balloon. So it kind of jiggles a little bit. You can get some visible rippling, and in a woman who's very thin and doesn't have much breast tissue over top of the implant, it can look a little bit unnatural because you can get some of that visible rippling and you can get that sort of water balloon appearance. A silicone implant is much more natural looking and also much more natural feeling because the silicone on the inside really does feel and look like natural breast tissue. So you can see if I kind of jiggle, and I'll try to do this side by side so you can see the difference. So this is a much nicer implant for someone that's thin, doesn't have much breast tissue. You won't see as much rippling along the edge, and also during movement, it's just gonna move like a natural breast. The other thing to consider between the two is really how long they're gonna last. All implants can potentially last for a long time. Either of these implants can rupture, so they can break. If a saline implant breaks and it springs a leak, it'll just deflate and it will look like this. The silicone implant is very different because even though that shell can break, the silicone on the inside is a cohesive gel, so it's like a gummy bear. It's not an oil or a liquid like it used to be in the past. So if this were to break, what actually happens, and I have an implant here where I made a little hole, if you take a look what happens when I squeeze. It's almost like that stuff wants to come out, but check this out. It goes right back in. Because this is not a liquid. It's a gel. So even if the implant were to break, it won't leak, and that's the main difference. So some of those stories you heard in the past about silicone liquid kind of leaking and getting all over the place, it won't happen with these newer implants. But again, implants can break whether it's a silicone implant or whether it's a saline implant. So there are a lot of differences between these two implants. I use both of these in my practice. A silicone implant is more common because I think it does look and feel more natural, but we do still use saline implants on occasion. If you're interested in breast implants and you want to know which is better for you, make sure to speak to your board-certified plastic surgeon. He or she will go over specific aspects of you and which one might be better in your situation. I hope that answers some questions about the difference between silicone and saline breast implants. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, make sure to like it, leave some comments down below, and also make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get notifications every time we add new videos like this.